Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Winnie Cheng. Winnie is a regional radiation specialist with Health Canada. She's worked there for the last 7 years, and she coordinates federal building tests as well as provides education and awareness in regards to radon. As well, she is a certified radon professional with the CNRPP, which I'm sure we'll learn a lot more about today. So without further ado, here's Winnie.
Thanks, Jenna, for the introduction. So it's my pleasure to present to you on radon today. Thank you. Thanks, Maureen, for help to set it up. So I will give you an overview. First of all, I will talk about how we are exposed to radon and what are the health effects of radon, what does radon do to our bodies, and what is the Canadian guideline for radon for action, and also how do we test for radon, and what is the national radon program so far, what has been accomplished, and we found radon in existing homes. How do we reduce it to bring it to a lower level? And for new homes, new constructions, how do we prevent radon in new buildings? And then how do we find a certified radon professional? And then we will have the rest of the time for question and answer. First of all, what is radon and how do we expose to radon? Radon is a radioactive gas that is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. It is formed by the breakdown of uranium, a natural radioactive material commonly found in soil, rock, and groundwater. And as a gas, radon escapes from the ground into the air. And you can imagine if radon gets outdoor, it's not a problem because it's diluted by ambient air. But if radon gets inside a home or confined space, then it might cause a problem. So how does radon get into a home? If you look at the diagram on the left, you will see that any cracks, openings or gaps in foundation walls or floors that will provide routes of entry into a home. And the other thing is the air pressure inside a home is normally lower than the pressure underneath or around the foundation. So one reason why this pressure difference occurs is because exhaust fans inside a home remove air from inside the house. So when the air is exhausted, outside air enters the house to replace it. So that causes air pressure differential. Another example is mechanical system. If a home has any furnaces or central air conditioners, so they may contribute to the difference in the air pressure. So this difference in pressure acts like a vacuum, drawing radon in through foundation cracks and other openings. So inside the home, you have lower pressure comparing to outside the house and underneath the foundation. So this pressure difference acts like a vacuum cleaner, drawing radon in through foundation cracks and other openings. So once inside the home, radon can build up to dangerous level. And the funny thing is, two identically built houses side by side can have totally different indoor radon levels. And there are many factors that influence radon levels in a house. For example, the amount of uranium in the ground, the resistance of the soil to air movement. For example, if underneath the house is mostly gravel, then air movement will be more, then radon might be higher. If it is clay, clay will resist air or soil vapor movement. Then if it is clay material, so probably the home will have less radon. So the resistance of the soil to air movement will contribute to difference in radon level in homes. The third is the foundation design and construction materials. If the construction materials has a lot of natural uranium, then the home built above it might have higher radon levels. And the number and size of openings in foundations, such as utility penetrations, that will contribute to entry wells for radon. Heating and ventilation system, if a home has heating recovery ventilation system, then they might contribute to less radon in the home. And occupancy patterns, a person who tend to open the windows a lot of the times comparing to someone who likes to keep the windows and doors closed would contribute to difference in indoor radon levels. So because of that, so two homes, even built identically the same, side by side can have very different indoor radon levels, and that's why it's important to test. If my neighbor's home is tested low, doesn't guarantee that my home is low too. So every homeowner should test. And here is a picture that shows an image that shows the typical radon entry routes in poor concrete foundation walls and floors. This is an image taken from the old CMHC radon guide, and you can see that you can see cracks floors in concrete floor slab and wall joints, basement walls, and the floor slab wall joints around. And you can see fractures on basement walls, and you can see utility penetrations, you know, those around that. And all of this can, and also the floor drains and sumps, all these are potential radon entry routes into a home. And then further to the right, you see that crawl space. So in crawl space, there's direct exposed soil and rock, and then radon can be accumulate to high level. You have little ventilation, direct exposure of soil and rock in crawl spaces. A lot of homes might have crawl space. That might be the potential area for buildup of radon. So these are the potential routes in a poor concrete foundation walls and floors. Sorry. So what is the average worldwide population exposed to different radiation sources? It could be from artificial exposures. It could be from water and food ingestion. For example, some food has higher radon radiation than others. I just learned that Brazil nuts has some radiation. Banana potassium has some radiation. So water and food ingestion, and then cosmic ray, you know, our Earth planet, and then outside of that is our cosmos that have a cosmic ray that gives radiation. Gamma radiation, you know, are very similar to the X-ray radiation, and medical diagnostic tools that potential exposure for human to radiation sources. But you look at this chart, it shows that radon contribute to 43% of a person's lifetime radiation exposure. So it's almost half of a person's lifetime exposure is from radon. So that's why it's very important for us to understand this, that above and beyond other sources of radiation exposure, radon contributes to the number one, almost half of a person's lifetime exposure. So what does radon do to our body? What is the known health effect? The known health effect for radon exposure is lung cancer development. And how does it happen? As radon breaks down, it forms radioactive particles. And you know, radon is a radioactive gas. But throughout the radioactive decay, from a gas, it turned back into a solid. We learned that from the couple slides before, that uranium is the precursor of radon. So through the radioactive decay, uranium as a solid, as a mineral, and then it became become a gas, also radioactive, called radon. Radon itself does not cause lung cancer. It's the radon daughters that cause lung cancer. So the radioactive gas called radon, and throughout the radioactive decay, turn back into a solid. And as those radon daughters attach to dust particles in the air, and then we breathe into the air, those radon daughters can attach to lung tissues. And as they continue the radioactive decay path, that release energy. And in long term, it can damage the lung cells. As the lung cells are damaged, DNA changed, and they have the potential to cause lung cancer. So that's how it happened. And why radon is a concern? Yes, we know that it can cause lung cancer in long term because radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking. So for non-smokers, radon becomes the #1 leading cause of lung cancer. So as Canadians, we spend close to 90% of our time inside, at homes, at work, and in recreational environments. So we have more opportunity to expose to indoor radon than anywhere else. And Health Canada estimated 16% of the population, the Canadians, died of lung cancer because of radon. So 16% is over 3,300 Canadians died of radon-caused lung cancer each year. So, and BC Centre of Disease and Control estimated 220 BC residents died of radon-induced lung cancer each year. This number is higher than motor vehicle caused death. So motor vehicle caused death, you and I might have very little control, whereas radon-induced lung cancer death can be managed. And I will continue to talk about radon and lung cancer risk. And as I mentioned before, risk from radon exposure is long-term, not immediate. It typically takes many years of exposure to increase the risk of lung cancer. So some people is concerned, oh, I tested the workplace is high in radon. Do I need to evacuate? Is it safe to go to work? And we often recommend that radon risk is a long-term risk. So as we understand that tobacco smoking is the #1 cause of lung cancer, and radon also causes lung cancer. So what about radon exposure plus tobacco smoking? And you can see that from this diagram that smokers, if they exposed to high radon, 1 out of 3 in their lifetime would develop lung cancer. That's very high. 33.33% of smokers, if they exposed to high radon, will develop lung cancer. For non-smoker, it's about 5%. So if non-smoker exposed to high radon, 1 in 20. But this is very high. If 5% of non-smokers in our population, if exposed to high radon, will develop lung cancer, this is very high. For human-caused carcinogens, and because of human activity, anthropogenic carcinogens, we only accept 1 in a million risk for development of lung cancer. Whereas for radon-caused lung cancer, 1 in 20, that is 5%. The risk we are willing to accept is way higher than human-caused carcinogens. Why? Because human-caused carcinogens, you and I can manage, can control, whereas radon is natural occurring. You have no bad person to blame. So that's why you can't set it at 1 in a million probability of risk. So this is very high. So what is the Canadian Radon Guideline for action? Health Canada set 200 becquerel per meter cube as the guideline for taking action. But since we understand that radon is radioactive, so there is no threshold, there is no safe level for radon. So 200 becquerel is a recommended action level. It's only a guideline. In our public outreach, we always recommend action to reduce radon levels to LR raw as low as practically achievable. So, for example, if my home is tested at 198 becquerel per meter cube, would I say that, oh, I'm happy because it's just below the guideline? No, I would try to reduce it as low as practically achievable, reasonable, because there is no safe level of radon in it because it's radioactive. And then later on, I will talk about what can we do in order to reduce radon if we find it high in a home. Since we mentioned that radon you can't taste, you can't see, you can't smell, so how do we test for radon? So first of all, Health Canada recommends a long-term test. And we encourage all Canadians to test their home for radon. It doesn't matter where you live, where your home is. So we recommend a long-term testing for a minimum of 3 months. And testing a home or building is very simple and inexpensive. There are 2 ways. You can either purchase a do-it-yourself test kit, or you hire a certified radon measurement professional. But since it's so simple and easy task, we often recommend Canadians to go to home improvement stores or BC Lung Association, sell it at cost as a non-profit organization, and you can do it on your own and follow the instructions, and it's easy to do. Or here is the website. It's called www.takeactionradon.ca/test, and you can find a radon test kit or certified measurement professional. And it's highly recommended to do the testing during the winter season, because during the winter we have the home closed up, windows closed, doors closed, so radon can build up to high level. Here are some examples of long-term test devices. The first one is called electric ion chamber. So inside is a disc called electric. It's electrically charged, calibrated in the lab or the manufacturer, and then because radon particles are charged, they're positively charged. So if this is exposed to radon, and it will create a charge differential. If you send this electric ion chamber back to the manufacturer or the lab, they can tell you the amount of radon exposed. So this is bulkier, heavier, and an older version of a long-term test device. And the most popular one is the second one, is called alpha track detector. So it's a passive test kit. It doesn't show you, there's no digital display. It doesn't show you the reading, but inside is a plastic disc. So it's not airtight, so radon can make its way in and out. And as radon hit the plastic disc, it will make markings because of radioactive decay. So after exposure for a minimum of 3 months, 90 days, you follow the instruction in the packaging and send it to a certified lab, and they put the disc under an electronic microscope, and they can count the number of markings, and they can tell you the amount of radon exposed to this passive detector. So this is lighter, easier to carry, and it's most popular nowadays for a long-term testing. And the third example is called a CRM. The acronym means Continuous Radon Monitor. It's more for Radon Professional. It's more expensive. It costs a few $100s versus the alpha track detector. It only costs about $29.99. If you get it from BC Lung Association, they sell it at cost. And the CRM costs a few $100s. It's for Radon Professional. They need to carry it from home to home, and it will give digital display like per 2 hours. And what does that do? And Radon Professional need this for screening purpose. So for example, the Radon Professional, after complete a mitigation to a home, and they want to check out whether it's effective, the mitigation actions. So they need something that they can tell them quick. So the CRM serve that purpose. So for the majority of Canadians, we recommend the alpha track detector as a long-term test kit. So why I mentioned about testing of a minimum of 3 months, like a long-term test. You can see on this chart to the left of the screen, you can see that on the vertical axis is the radon level, and the horizontal axis is the date, the time. And if I test for radon, a short-term test at the 20th day, that might give me a high reading, a false positive. And if I do a short-term test at 65 to 70 days, that might give me a false negative, because radon fluctuates from hours to hours, from days to days. And as we understand, there are a lot of factors that come into play that affect the indoor radon levels. So that's why we recommend a test for a minimum of 3 months during the winter time, worst case scenario, when the home is closed up. So, and it doesn't matter it's a new homes or older homes, and do it during the winter months. And only radon measurement gathered over a long period of time will be more accurate as an annual average, and base your mitigation decision on a long-term test, never a short-term test. Some people, they go to the home improvement store and they get a short-term test kit, a detector, and then they plug it in, and test the high, and it might be false alarm. So I always answer public inquiries and recommend them to follow up with a long-term test during the winter time. As I said, it's very easy to do. For the radon measurement, you can do it on your own, and you just place the radon detector in the lowest level of home. You spend a minimum of 4 hours per day. So livable area, lived-in area, you spend a minimum of 4 hours a day. So it's worst case scenario. Radon's coming from soil, bedrock, and soil, and the lower, and it's heavier than air. So in general, the lower you go, the higher the level. So test the lowest lived-in level. For example, you have a basement, but you hardly use the basement. You only use it once or twice in a week for laundry. Then don't test the basement. But if you have someone staying in the basement regularly, or have a bedroom in the basement with someone living there, then you want to test the basement. So if I have a basement that I hardly use, I will test one level above. So let's say the main floor. And some people put it in the bedroom because they spend at least 8 hours a day. So lived-in area, lowest level. So yeah, simple to do. You just put the test kit. You can hang it down from the ceiling to briefing level. You can place it on top of a desk or table, or tape it underneath the table so that no pets, no young children tamper on it. So it's easy to do. Leave it there for 3 months, and then after 3 months, follow instructions, send it to a certified lab, and they will give you a report. And based on that reading for your mitigation decision, never a short-term test. So what has Health Canada accomplished so far? So in the next few slides, I will talk about the National Radon Program. Because according to the Canada Neighbor Code, the radon guideline is 800 becquerel per meter cube. So in 2007, based on scientific evidence, so reduced the radon guideline from 800 becquerel per meter cube to 200. Because of that, it created a national radon program to support this change. First of all, there are 5 components for the national radon program. First of all, we have the radon lab. The national radon lab support radon testing project, radon surveys, and we also created the database to capture the radon data. And it also supports radon research work, ongoing research. And education awareness is part of the component for the National Radon Program. So I will likely talk about each of them in the next few slides. So the lab is the hub, the core to support the other component. For example, radon testing project. So since 2008 up to this point of time, we coordinated federal building. Over 19,000 federal buildings across Canada have been tested to this date. And then we found exceedance, and we follow up with mitigation and recommendation. And besides the federal buildings, we also conducted a cross-Canada survey of radon concentrations in homes. So we recruited 18,000 homes across Canada, and only 14,000 homeowners reported the results. And I will show you in the next few slides the findings of this. So federal building testing represents workplace exposure, whereas the cross-Canada survey represents home exposures. Here is how I plotted. I myself coordinated 1,100 federal buildings in the BC province. And then out of these 1,100 federal buildings, I found 56 buildings exceeded the guideline. The yellow balloon gives you the buildings found in Zone 2. So the BC government subdivided the region into Zone 1 and Zone 2. Zone 1 means radon-rich areas, and then Zone 2 means non-radon-rich areas. The reason for doing that is for building code application. So for new constructions in Zone 1, the purple balloon, Zone 1, required the application of the building code to prevent radon ingress. And I will talk about it. And then Zone 1, new construction, Zone 1, Vancouver is in Zone 1, relatively low radon. But look at these findings from the federal building testing. Does it tell us that even buildings in considered as low radon area, Zone 2, you still find buildings that is high, right? So which means that there is no area in Canada that is radon free. So even in relatively low radon areas, we still find high radon in pockets of areas. This is the last slide is workplace exposure. This slide is home exposure, cross-Canada residential survey of radon concentrations in homes. And I plotted it according to health regions. You'll find that the high radon area is Kootenay boundary, 29.3% of homes found exceeded the guideline. Okanagan, 17.4%, East Kootenay, 19%, Thompson Caribou, 6.4% homes, and then Northern Interior, 12%, Northeast, 10%, Northwest, 5.2%. So you can see that the relatively high radon or radon-rich areas is in Interior BC, Northern BC, and East Kootenay area, right? So the yellow is the relatively low in radon, but even that we found homes in the low areas exceeded the guideline from this residential survey. This is only plotted according to health region. And also, I answer public inquiries, and oftentimes people living in the yellow zone, yellow areas, telling me that I tested my home is high in radon, what can I do? So I have homeowner in Richmond, in Burnaby, in West Vancouver, in Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, in Abbotsford. Those are even on the island homeowners telling me that I've tested my home, long-term test, and it showed exceeded the guideline. What can I do? So which means that separation or subdividing into zone 1, zone 2 is only for BC Building Code application. It's in general, it doesn't really give you the specific. So every homeowner should test their home for radon. And then the fourth component is the radon research. So Health Canada continued to collaborate with National Research Council in doing studies on testing mitigation techniques. And then we completed the granite and building materials, and 35 commercial available granite countertops were tested for the emission of radon, and we found that insignificant amount of radon emitted from granite countertop. And we continue to engage in research in order to support the National Radon Program for policy and public guidance. So there are other accomplishments, such as the 2010 National Building Codes were recommended for protection against radon ingress with the rough-in, and also with the support of Health Canada, we developed the Canadian National Radon Proficiency Program, CNERP, for certifying test kits, certifying lab, and certifying Radon Professional. So it's a third body giving certification for radon lab and products, and also professionals. The last component on the National Radon Program is education and awareness. Development of radon measurement and mitigation guidance documents, information materials, brochures, infographics, and for example, the Radon Reduction Guide for Canadians, and Take Action on Radon. Radon is it in your home brochure. These are for public education, public awareness, and for professional guide for radon measurements in residential dwellings, in homes, and also guide for radon measurement in public buildings such as schools, hospitals, detention center, care facilities, and how to mitigate if we find high radon in dwellings. So these are for professional contractors. So we created these measurement and mitigation protocols. And also, we promote message in tandem, as we encourage energy efficient home to reduce energy expense, then the need also to test your home, because we have findings that the tighter the home, even in the new energy efficient home, we find higher radon than existing homes, because the tighter the home, once the radon gets in, it cannot get out. So sometimes people ask me, oh, my home is very old, would I have a higher radon problem than the newer energy efficient home? I said, not necessarily. Yeah, and we have evidences, and we have data to show that energy efficient home has higher radon. So as we advocate to promote energy efficiency, we have to also promote the need to test. Efficient home also need to be a healthy home. And continue with the education and awareness component. We have extensive radon education and awareness program across the country. November is the Take Action on Radon Month. It's a Radon Action Month, and we will hear from the media, social media, and we also developed a public service announcement in partnership with Mike Holmes and Mike Holmes Jr. They're the most trustworthy contractor in Canada, and in order to create awareness in radon. And and also we created the accredited continuing medical education course for health professionals. So health professional, for example, family doctor, spend an hour online and learn about radon. They will receive 1 credit for continuing medical education for their licensing. So targeting the health professional. So because they are a trusted source of information, and the patients tend to listen to their doctors. So it's important for health professional to know about radon. And these are the information material as promotional materials. We have the sending panel for booth displays, and we have banners, roll-up banners, and we have videos created in partnership with the Bislang Association, and we have the Radon House on the Lazy Susie. Lazy Susan, right? Yeah, I always confuse it with Lazy Daisy. Lazy Susan. So you said you got it's a turnaround table, and it shows the entry routes of radon. It shows you how we measure radon, how you can mitigate and reduce radon, all in like a one. So it's pretty popular, and anyone want to promote radon, they can borrow from us these display materials. So the next question is, we learn how to test for radon. It's simple and it's not costly. It's only worth like 5 hamburgers, you know, $29.99, and you can have your home tested for radon. And yet we spend thousands of dollars every year on home insurance, car insurance, yeah, and getting radon tested for your home is not costly. So once we have tested our home high in radon in existing dwellings, what can we do in order to reduce radon levels? So first of all, I will talk about, you know, the suggested guideline for taking action. If my home is tested high, if it is between 200 to 600 becquerel per millicurie, we recommend fix your home within 2 years. The higher the radon is, the sooner you should fix your home. If it is above 600 becquerel per millicurie, fix your home within 1 year. We follow this time frame for federal building. If they are tested high, we recommend them to fix the dwellings, the buildings, within 2 years if it is between 200 to 600. But a lot of homeowners telling me that once they found their home above the guideline, they will take action right away. If financially affordable, they will take in order to ensure a safe and healthy living environment for themselves and for their family members. The most effective way of reducing radon is called ASD for short. For long, it's called Active Subslab Depressurization Unit, or another name is Active Soil Depressurization. Sub means below, so below the slab, the foundation slab, depressurization. Active, why? Because you have a fan. You have an exhaust fan 24/7 on, so it's active below the concrete slab, depressurized. So creating positive pressure, so exhaust the radon. So if permission of climate situation, if it is in cold zone, cold area, if venting through the top, you know, might cause problem, it can be vent to the side. But make sure it's not pointing to your neighbor's window. Yeah. So, but for BC, probably we can, you know, exhaust it through the rooftop. So you have a pipe through the concrete slab. So you can see that the little like 1/3 of a circle, you know, that is like gravel. Make sure it's loosened, make sure there is enough air movement, and then you have a fan, you know, at the attic, the radon exhaust fan, and on 24/7 that create the, you know, the exhaustion for radon, and then escape all the way through the rooftop. So once it's outside, it's not a problem. Radon outside is diluted by ambient air. So this is the most effective. It's effective to reduce radon by 80 to 90%. So here is a picture that shows you how it looks. This is a typical home that you see a lot of pipes. Why is it so? Because the communication underneath the concrete slab is not good. There's not good airflow. So you need different pipes, several pipes. It can all connected to one fan. So if there are good connection, good communication, one pipe is enough. And this pipe can be hidden in closet area so that it won't be visible. Yeah. And as I said, another name for active subslab depressurization is active soil depressurization. This is very effective and the most desirable radon reduction. You may ask me how much approximate would it cost? It will cost about around $2,000-3,000. It really depends on the structure of the home. And what if my home has a cross space? For a cross space, you need sub-membrane depressurization. Sub means below membrane. So you put a polyethylene, heavy-duty polyethylene membrane across the cross space, and then you tape it, tape it around, caulk and tape it around. Make sure it's 100 millimeter above, and tape it, and then you apply a suction. So it's apply suction underneath the membrane. So this is for cross space. And people ask me, what are other techniques in reducing radon? Well, you can seal off any openings. I said cracks and fractures on concrete slab and basement walls, penetration lines, seal around some pump, but these are never standalone technique for reducing radon levels. So it might be effective to reduce a few percent of radon, but it's not the most effective, never a standalone. Seal around wall joints and so. And some newer homes may have a HRV or ERV, a heat recovery ventilator, and can be installed to, you can treat the air exchange rate to bring in fresh air more frequent, and so to remove the stale air with radon. So these can be effective to reduce the radon levels in home. So, but these are never standalone technique for reducing radon. So what about new homes? If I'm considering building a new homes, how to prevent for radon measure? Oh, so the BC Building Code kicks in. The BC Building Code revised its radon mitigations to require a radon vent pipe that extends from below the foundation slab for home in zone 1, high or high radon areas, and vented to the outdoors. So the BC government subdivide the province into zone 1 radon rich area and zone 2 non-radon rich area based on let's say geology, dispersion of uranium, and then the dividing line is typically follow the coast mountains as shown in that picture. Since December of 2014, the BC Building Code was amended and require a passive radon vent pipe. Do you notice the difference between the ASD, active soil depressurization or active subslab depressurization, and this passive system? No fan. Yes, that's why it's called passive. So what good does it do without a fan? Because these pipes extend through the indoor environment. Indoor air temperature is relatively higher than the outdoor and below the concrete slab. So you have the stack effect, hot air balloon effect. Hot air rises. Even without a fan, this is effective to reduce radon by 50%. And that's why the BC Building Code require new homes built in Zone 1 with this radon vent pipe. If I'm not living in Zone 1, I'm in Zone 2, putting one of this system will only cost a couple $100 in new homes. But in retrofit, it costs a couple $1,000. So in view of, nowadays building a new homes will cost $1 million, I don't know how much. So a couple $100 is nothing, right? Yeah, but it can help to remove soil gas, including radon, because of hot air balloon effect. So where I could find a Radon Professional? Let's say my home's been tested high. I need a mitigation professional, a CNR professional. So you can go to the CNR website, cnrpp.ca, find a professional, and they will give you a list of certified professional to help you with reducing radon. And there are a lot of available resources such as BC Lung Association, Radon Aware website, Health Canada website, and CNR website. And you can contact me directly through email or through phone. And that's it for my presentation.